Hi, this is Quinn, and welcome to Quintech. Well, thank you again for coming along on my journey. I really appreciate it. There's probably 10,000, maybe more channels on YouTube, and you chose to watch mine. So I really appreciate it. That's awesome. So in this video, I'm going to be showing off my Sega Dreamcast. And the Sega Dreamcast was Sega's very last console that they came out with. Unfortunately, they kind of went bankrupt after that. They still sort of exist. They make games, but they don't make consoles anymore. But I'm a big fan of Sega. I started out with my first console was a Sega Genesis. And that was a 16-bit system. Came out in 1989. I got mine in around 91 or 92, so it had already been out for a while. But I love that console. And then I sold it, and I loved it so much I went and bought a second one. So, but they did have a system prior to that called the Sega Master System, which was an 8-bit system that kind of was a rival to the Nintendo Entertainment System, aka NES. And then after the Sega Genesis, they had the Sega Saturn, which I also own a Sega Saturn, which I showed off in a previous video. And then after that, they had Sega Dreamcast, which I love. And I'm going to show off this system. I have a few games for it, and I have like 3 different controllers for it. 2 of them are just the original controller, one is a third-party one. And then I have like 5 memory cards for it. And that was kind of an innovative concept. You'll see it in the video. And I have like 2 different ways to plug it up to a TV or a monitor. And you'll see that in the video. And anyway, I love the system. And once again, thanks for coming along on my journey. And I hope you enjoy this. And, well, I guess without further ado, let's go on with my video. Alright. Take care. Hi, this is Quinn, and welcome to Quintech. So thank you for coming back, and this is my latest video on the Sega Dreamcast. Another one of my favorite systems from back in the day. And I have a lot of items for this Dreamcast. Not all of the games, but a lot of these games I received. I bought this in around 2000. I bought it used from. It's actually this guy that was a friend of my sister's. She was in high school at the time, and I think he had a crush on her. So he sold me this entire system for $50 back in 2000. And it included all 3 of these controllers, a lot of these games, the system, and I might have bought 1 or 2 of these memory cards, but I think it came with both of these, which are Rumble Pack little plugins, because back then they didn't have Rumble built into the controller. It started with the Nintendo 64, where you had to buy a separate little Rumble Pack to have Rumble, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it's fun sometimes. And then I also have, I just bought these cables recently because my original cable got chewed by a cat I used to own back at my old house. So I bought a composite cable, and then I got this VGA cable because the Dreamcast had built-in VGA output. It worked on 90% of the games that came out, but there's a couple games it doesn't work on. And I also, when I got this, last year, or maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, fairly recently. I also bought a VGA and audio to HDMI converter, which I still have somewhere. I can't find it currently. And then, here's a power cable. This isn't the original power cable, but it will work. And this system, like I say, is another one that is near and dear to my heart. So, one of the interesting things about the Dreamcast was they called them the VMU, the Visual Memory Unit. And all these have dead batteries in them, but you can replace the battery by unscrewing that screw, and it's just your standard, um, like, round cell battery or whatever. And I heard a long time ago, but I never followed the instructions, which was to save your battery life. What you had to do was, whenever you turn your system off, you either had to unplug these from your controller or unplug the controller from the console, and then the battery wouldn't drain. If it was plugged in, the battery would keep draining, even when your system was turned off. So all these right now are dead, but I have 5 of them. Um, 2 cool colored ones. I've got a red and a blue, and then 2 standard white ones that match the color of the controller. And then this was called the Mega memory card. If I can get that to focus. The Mega memory card. And this actually has a switch on the back. You're supposed to have 4 banks, which it did when I first bought it. And then my dumbass, I decided, oh, I'm going to reformat this. And after I reformatted it, well, now it only has 2 banks. I think 1, 3, and 4 are 1 bank, wherever I put the switch, and then number 2 is a second bank. So this originally held, I guess, 4 times as much save games and memory as those, but now it only holds 2 times as much because I reformatted it with the standard Dreamcast menu, and somehow it screwed it up, so now it only has 2 banks. 1 bank is shared between 1, 3, and 4, and the second bank is on 2. So another cool thing about these is, if with certain games you could download content to these, and they have this little screen, and it became kind of like a little Tamagotchi. I don't know if you remember those from the late 90s. They had the Tamagotchi, which the most popular one was Pokemon, where you had this like virtual pet that you had to like go on all the time, every day. You had to feed it, walk it, make sure it had water, and play with it so it had love. And if you didn't, it would die. So this was sort of based on that. I think the system, yeah, it came out in 1999, and but one of the cool things about this, if you had got these downloadable games, well, they weren't downloadable. You got them if you had a cartridge. No, excuse me, I'm getting my facts mixed up. If you had a game on CD, certain games allowed you to save a game to this console, and then you could actually battle your friends. These actually plug into each other like that, and you could be playing on this side, and then your friend would be over here playing on this side, and you could do like little games. And another item they had, which I used to have, but I've lost it over the years, was this little cable that you could plug up to your Neo Geo Pocket. which I also have. I'll do a video on that at some point. And for some reason, Dreamcast, which is made by Sega, they sort of teamed up with SNK, which made the Neo Geo and the Neo Geo Pocket and several other systems and arcade games back in the day. And there were certain games that if you had the disc that would link up with the cartridge games on the handheld, and you could like transfer content back and forth with this little cable. I don't think you could like play a game with the handheld with that cable, but that plugged in through the back. So this system's kind of cool. Automatically came with 4 controller plugs. I only have 3, but... And then in the back, you've got your power. It had a built-in 56K modem. I think it was 56K. And they had an upgrade that you could buy, but they're very rare and kind of expensive to get now, which is an Ethernet plug. And I think it was only 10 base T at the time. And then you have your AV out. And then this is your serial plug. And that's the cord I used to have that you could plug your serial plug on here. And then it would transfer over to your Neo Geo Pocket. And I think you could also do head-to-head battles with a serial-to-serial plug if you had 2 TVs and 2 consoles in the same household. So this is the system, and one of the cool things to me about the system was it didn't really have any copy protection built in. You didn't have to get a chip. You didn't have to mod chip it to be able to play burn games. But the thing is, they came out with the discs were called GDRs, which I can't remember. I should have researched what that stands for. But it was slightly more capacity than a CD, but not quite as much capacity as a DVD. So it was sort of an in-between format that they created themselves. So most of the burn games you would burn to a CD. So how they would, if they were a really large game, how they would make them fit on a CD was they'd take all the videos, all the cutscenes and stuff like that, and they would compress them and shrink them down so the quality wouldn't be as good on the cutscenes, but all the game content would be the same quality as if you bought the CD or the game. So I have quite a few games for this. I have more games for this system than I have for any other game system that I own. And again, on the same theme as my PlayStation, I love all these fighting games. I'm not that great at them, but I had a lot of friends in Albuquerque that were really into them, and so I'm into them. I'm just not the best player at them. So this one is Fatal Fury, Mark of the Wolves. I have Project Justice, which is, the original game was called Rival Schools. This is Rival Schools Part 2. I have Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. I have the King of Fighters Evolution, which they had King of Fighters 99, and then King of Fighters Evolution is practically the same game as King of Fighters 99. I think maybe it had like one extra player, or it was slightly modified from King of Fighters 99. And then I also have Capcom versus SNK, and this is the first home console version where Capcom, who was the creator of Street Fighter and several other games, and SNK, who was the creator of Fatal Fury and King of Fighters and several other games, And of course, Samurai Showdown, one of my favorite games, the one that got me into fighting games. They did a team up game, Capcom versus SNK. And then I also have Skies of Arcadia, probably the best RPG on Dreamcast. I have Resident Evil Code Veronica, which I think when it came out might have been a Dreamcast exclusive. It was later released on PlayStation 2, but PlayStation 2 hadn't come out yet. PlayStation 2 came out in like 2000 or 2001. And then Soul Calibur, probably the this was like the killer app or the best game for the Dreamcast when it was relevant. And then I have The Last Blade 2, which is kind of like Samurai Showdown, but not quite as good. And then this is probably the cheapest game I have. I bought it because I love the franchise, but The Evil Dead Hail to the King. And this game is crap. It plays crappy. It looks crappy. And this is the only game that I have that does not work with this VGA cable. Or maybe, I could be wrong, maybe Soul Calibur also doesn't work with that, but I think it might. But if I try to load this game with the VGA cable hooked up, it says incompatible. You must use your composite cable. So I also have two controllers that are your standard controllers. And this was kind of a weird design. I don't know how they came up with this, but they decided to have the cord drop out of the bottom. And then it had this little clip, so you would have to fold this up and clip it into the little thing, and then it would go forward. I don't know why they designed it like that. It's kind of a weird design. And then it has two plugs here. So you can plug either two of these VMUs in here, one there, and then that becomes a little screen on your controller. And a lot of games would put little graphics on there that that correlate to that game. And then you could put either a second VMU there, or you could put this little rumble pack thing. And I think they had a different name for it. I can't remember what it's called, but you could plug this in here. So that's how you got your rumble ability. So you could still have your memory card in the front and then your rumble pack there and play like this. Well, this also came with my original purchase, which is a Mad Catz. And it's kind of El Cheapo. One of these buttons is a little flaky. You have to mash it really hard. But it gives you more of a 6-button controller type feel. And I forget what this extra button does, but basically your X and Z, how is it? Excuse me. You've got your A, B, X, Y on your standard controller. And then on this one you have your A, B, X, Y, and your C correlates to the shoulder button, and your Z correlates to this shoulder button. So it's basically copies these buttons, but these are analog, depending on how slow these triggers, depending on how hard or how soft you press it, it is different. But these are just standard buttons. But that helps you play fighting games that require these shoulder buttons, helps you play them better, because this is how I used to play 6-button games with a Sega controller. You would control here, and then you'd use your hand like this. So this would be light punch, medium punch, hard punch, light kick, medium kick, hard kick, light punch, medium punch, hard punch. So this made it a lot easier to play certain fighting games. And this, like I say, it's got your normal how to plug into the back of the AV on the console, but then the other end is you've got your VGA, your 15-pin VGA in, plus your left and right audio. Now on my TV, the S-video doesn't link up to my audio, so it doesn't really work correctly. But if you were using a VGA monitor, you would probably plug those into like your stereo system or some external speakers. And then you got your regular composite, which has, again, your standard AV plug for the back of the console, and then you got your standard composite video and left and right audio. So that's just sort of an overview of my system that I have, and I will probably come back later with another video showing off some games on here. And maybe I'll show you, maybe I will play a couple games, actually, now that I think about it. So let me set this up and I'll figure out how to do this. Alright, I'll be back in just a minute. So right now I just have the standard composite AV plugged up, and I'm going to power the system on. There is not a disc in the system because I kind of want to show off their little menu, which is pretty cool. So for some reason these VMUs always make a little beep noise when they first power on. I don't know why, it's kind of annoying, but that's what they do. And you can actually save some content on these little LCD screens. This one I have saved as Capcom logo. This one is saved as the Skies of Arcadia kind of little logo there. And this one actually has one of those little VMU games. Unfortunately, the battery is dead, so I can't play it. And I think if you play this little VMU game, you can build up your experience by playing this little VMU game. And then when you play the game itself, it transfers those experience points over to the game on the GDR. So, and this one was just like a generic one that you could pick from the menu. Alright, so let me show you the screen. And I had to downgrade to a smaller television, but hey, it still works. So the internal battery no longer really works, so whenever you turn it on for the first time, it defaults back to this 11/27/1998 at 12 a.m. or O dark 0. So you can change. It is actually the 26th of 2020, And the time is 2 something. Let me see. It's 2:18. And select. So this is your little menu. And I'm just going to show you the power on screen real quick, since I'm showing the screen, because I think it's kind of cool. Sorry about the glare on there, that's from the lights I have set up for this video. So if you power it off and power it on real quick, it'll still remember the time. And this is your power-up screen for the Dreamcast. And this one actually defaults to like a 4:3 aspect ratio, like it normally looked back in the day on a CRT, more square-shaped than rectangular. It's slightly rectangular, but more square-shaped. So, if you went into here, this shows all the different VMU, which is also your memory card. You can play games on it, but it's also your memory card. So I have several. This one like is almost full because I have a lot of. This is like all my fighting games basically on this one. Then this one has Skies of Arcadia and I forget what that is. And then this one has Resident Evil, and that might be Evil Dead, but I'm not sure. And then this one has a lot of my Burn game saves on it. And this one is sort of a hybrid. It has some fighting games, some shooter games. That's Resident Evil 3 maybe. And then this was like a Sega. You could play emulators on here. You could play a Sega Genesis emulator with your Dreamcast, which I thought was kind of cool. And there's also a Super Nintendo emulator. I don't think you could play Sega CD, but there's a Master System one. There's an NES one. It was kind of cool. You could play all these games on your Dreamcast if you had the correct disc or created your correct disc. So let me put a disc in here. I guess I will start with. Well, let's do the killer app. Let's start with Soul Calibur, which, if you wanted to play Soul Calibur on a home console in 1999, the Dreamcast was your only option. And this game is kind of badass. So let's open this lid. I'm going to pop the disc in, close it. Check the disc. Oh, and then it just starts. And I don't know if it's my lens starting to go bad, or maybe it's my old my burn CDs are starting to fail. I'm starting to lean towards the latter. Originally I thought my laser lens was going, but now I think it's just I need to reburn. And I have like stacks and stacks and stacks of burn games, but I hardly played any of them. But I do want to reburn the ones I really like at some point, and so I can play them on the original console. You can emulate the system on a PC, but it's not the same feel. Of course, you have to use a different controller. But this is Soul Calibur. one of the best fighting games for this system. So, well, since I'm doing one player, let's do arcade mode.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
So we have a lot of characters on here. This one sort of Mitsurugi sort of reminds me of the character from Samurai Showdown, Haomaru. He's a samurai, so he's probably my favorite character for this game. And like I say, I'm not the greatest at this game, but I'm gonna play it anyway, and we're gonna have some fun. And Sophatia, yeah, she can be a little brat sometimes. And this game is 3D. You know what? I think this game is a little glitchy. I forgot. Yeah, it like on certain characters it glitches right at the beginning. I forgot about that. Darn it. I don't think it likes Mitsurugi. So if I pick a different character, it might actually work. Let's try. I haven't played this in, I don't know, at least 7 or 8 months. I played it fairly recently.
Namco. Welcome back.
Let me try a different character. Sumina. I like her. Let's see if this will work. Edge Master. Oh, he's one of the bosses. So he's probably gonna kick my butt if this actually starts. And again, this is only 20-year-old technology, but it can be a little glitchy. So maybe my laser lens is dying on this. I forgot about that. Darn it. So let me try a different game. I know some of these games do work. I think this is the only one I really had a problem with. So I'm going to try... Well, let's do the... no, let's do King of Fighters Evolution. Because I'm more of an SNK guy than a Capcom guy. I don't hate Capcom fighting games. They kind of started the genre, but I discovered fighting games through SNK, so they're kind of more my favorite. And King of Fighters took characters from all the different games and combined them into this one game. So let's see how this plays. Alright, press start. And you can do team play, single play. Let's do single play. So you have quite a few characters to pick from. I always like Mai, because she's sexy, and you'll see. Oh, guess I get to select who my... Let's do roulette. Okay, I haven't played this in a while. I forgot how it played. So, Mai versus Yuri. Dang. Hmm. Yeah, I did select that cheat, so... Terry and Andy in the SNK universe are very similar to Ryu and... Oh, who's the other guy? From the Street Fighter universe. Dang, I'm sucking. Ooh. So, yeah, I just wanted to show off this game a little bit. Show off this system. And this might be the only game I play tonight. I just wanted to show that my system still works. I forgot that for some reason, my system doesn't like Soul Calibur, which is the killer app. I think if I'd use one of my burn versions, like a different version, it'll work. But it doesn't work with the original disc, which is kind of strange. But I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for coming along in my latest video. And thank you for being a subscriber. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give me a thumbs down. And once again, I appreciate your patron. I appreciate you watching my videos. Thank you for being interested in this content. It means a lot to me. And thank you to my fans. And you guys take care and have a good night. Alright. Bye.